All right.
Fucking hell.
Sounds good.
Oh, fucking shocking.
Hello, that's
Oh, look at my boy. Okay, man.
Phillip Walker.
What is he wearing?
What is he wearing, bro?
What are they put on him, bro? Look.
Man, you look like a bozo right now.
That's what's worse.
Far from fucking the clip.
Well, the judge wants to speak to y'all real quick.
Just getting some snapshots.
Move my head for a second, Carl.
It's fine.
Hello, miss. How are you?
Come here, whoever Carmen is.
Yeah, whoever his lawyer was yesterday was shit.
Okay. Oh my god, you were red.
Wait, what happened yesterday?
How many
Bunch of
calls?
rules
How many
now.
cases have you got?
Okay.
What the fuck have you done?
No, yesterday, I think he was like appealing something he was already charged for. This
He's
time,
going through
obviously,
shit.
He took a massive L last night, for sure.
wow, what to do?
He lost like
Should we get
1,200
the
bottles of
trial done?
Oxy.
Oh, you're saying you want to keep him in custody during the
Like,
trial?
Yeah, chill.
Don't say that shit aloud, idiot. Oh my god.
I mean, of course we'd like him out of custody, but I mean, if you want to keep
It
him
don't
custody.
matter. If Edward heard that, he's fucked. You fucking idiot.
That's landmark. This 30 fingertips. Yeah, that's Frankenstein landmark.
No shit.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking. I'm an idiot.
Call him by his full name. Oh yeah, we do the strip balls will stick to the back of his head.
Excluded for those you.
Oh my god, you can't say that.
Hey, free my man.
Hey, 100 G's, 100 G's cash. You them.
Ooh.
Fuck.
I don't know that guy. I'm not associated with him at all.
100 G's.
What want me to do? Volley my fucking vape off of the head?
Yeah, what we do?
He ain't got anything on me. I'm gonna lob it at his head.
Throw my nice fucking Air Max 90s at his fucking head. What?
Fucking bounce it off his noggin.
How the fuck can you even get out of here?
Send me his number. I want to take the piss. And
My
send him
guess
a
is just
free
maybe like
You want to sit down, man?
What the?
yeah, for real.
You make me
Yeah,
nervous.
sit
man.
down
Come on,
where?
Carl. Yeah.
No.
What?
Oh no,
Oh,
I
what
didn't
did you
say I
say?
wanted to take a piss in a fruit bowl. I don't want to take the piss by sending him a picture of it. However, if there is no toilet available.
All rise. The District Court of San Andreas is now in session. The Honorable Judge York presiding.
All right, welcome everybody to the District Court of San Andreas. Today we will be hearing the State of San Andreas versus Phillip Walker, case number
They said they frisked, but I think they
21-17796.
searched.
I would like the prosecution to state your name for the record.
Yes. So, dubbed by the defendant yesterday, I am the Peanut Gallery, Kennedy Cartwright, here as the state prosecutor.
Is that what you'd like to be known as?
No, you can call me the state prosecutor, Kennedy.
Yeah,
Cartwright.
let's call it the peanut gallery. I like that.
All right. And defense,
She
state
got a
your
big mouth.
names. Okay, state your names for the record, please.
Cyrus Hunt and Oliver Hall, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, everyone. Ms. Cartwright, are your witnesses here today?
They are. I should say two of them are. Hugo Stiglitz has not.
He's right behind you.
Oh, he has shown up. Great. I have all three.
Fantastic. Is the defendant here today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Walker, nice to see you again in cuffs.
Of course, you as well. Looking beautiful, Miss York.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. All right, let's have the state prosecutor go ahead and read the charges, please.
The charges robbery, PC 2228, and possession of illegal contraband, PC 3207.
All right, we have already had our pre-trial motions and discussions, so I'm calling this court into order. We will go ahead and begin with opening statements. Ms. Cartwright, the floor is yours.
On October 2nd, 2021, Officer 590, Michael Goldberg, Officer 444, Hugo Stiglitz, and Officer 920, Carmine Bickford, responded to a 1090 call from the 24/7 on Insenio Road. 590 was the first to arrive on scene and began clearing the building when officers 444 and 920 arrived to assist. The defendant was found in the back of the store in what appeared to be a hiding posture. The defendant was detained on the scene, was arrested, and then searched incident to the rest. In the possession of the defendant was a hacking tool, 1 lockpick, and $223 of cash. Upon further investigation of the store, the cash register was deemed to have been tampered with. The defendant was fingerprinted, shown in Exhibit A2, and identified as Phillip Walker. The charges, he was charged with the crimes of robbery and possession of illegal contraband. The evidence and witness testimony will show today that there was no one else who could have set off the store alarm while tampering with the cash register of the store other than the defendant, and he should be found guilty.
Thank you, prosecution. Defense, your opening statement?
May it please the court, counsel.
Yes.
Earlier in another trial, I talked about the presumption of innocence, proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and this analogy that some professors use in law school. And I'm going to say it again for everyone who wasn't there, that a criminal case can kind of be like baking a chocolate chip cookie. You know, you have all these ingredients that you need to make a chocolate chip cookie. You have flour, sugar, butter, chocolate chips, and then whatever else you put in a chocolate chip cookie. But ultimately, if you don't have those ingredients, or if you are missing one of those ingredients, you can't make a chocolate chip cookie. And that's how this is going to be applied to the criminal case here today. The defendant is being charged with 2 crimes. For each crime, the prosecutor has elements that they need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. If they're missing any one of those elements, you can't convict the defendant. The standard for presumption of innocence is that the defendant right now is presumed innocent under the law, and the prosecutor has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt during the trial that they are guilty of all these charges. So during this trial today, while you're hearing the testimony, while you're seeing the evidence, think about if the prosecutor or the state has proved all the elements beyond a reasonable doubt. The highest standard in our country.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. All right, Ms. Cartwright, you can go ahead and call your first witness.
I will be calling 590 Michael Goldberg to the stand.
Good evening, officer.
Howdy.
If you would, sir, go ahead and raise both hands for me. Do you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, if you would, go ahead and stand to the right of the big chair there, and speak
Yeah,
to the
come a little
microphone.
closer.
All right.
This side, sir.
No, stand up, sir, and then to the right of the big chair.
Yeah,
To the
you'll
right of the-
see. Yeah,
okay.
just, yeah.
Like here?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, keep
Oh.
going, keep going. Come on in. Closer, closer.
On
You
the
see-
To the
touch now?
microphone.
Keep
To the
going a little
microphone.
closer. Keep a few
to
more
the
steps.
microphone. Okay.
There, you see the microphone right in front of you there?
Sure.
Wonderful. All right.
Okay, officer, can you tell me what your position is within the, or I guess, what department are you in?
From the LSPD,
And what is your rank within the LSPD?
senior officer.
Okay, can you explain to me the incident at hand with the 1090?
Yeah, so I was just patrolling the area around Bay City when we received a 1090 call of a silent alarm that in one of the convenience stores up on Great Ocean. Just give me a second, I can't sing when it's so loud. All right. So we got a 1090, and I respond to that. I was one of the first units on scene of that 90. We were standing outside the store, shouting inside to people to make them, to make themselves aware and notice. And we didn't get any response. So as soon as my second unit showed up, we decided to breach the store. The front and behind the cash registry, there was no one to be found. The second unit pushed into the back first. I covered him from behind, and he then found one suspect laying in the furthest corner in the far back right side, like kind of like crouching, but just laying down, and yeah. From there on, we detained him. We put him in cuffs. I told him that he's, well, obviously he's on arrest for, well, robbing his door. Another officer brought him outside. I cleared the outside, found his car, a black 4-door, I think it's a Buffalo. I searched the suspect, and I then gave all the evidence that I collected to the recruit, and he booked the suspect in, I think, Polito, and that's about it.
What possessions did you find on the defendant?
I would have to look it up, I don't recall, but it was like a hacking tool, and I believe a lockpick, I'm not sure. It's been like 2 weeks or so.
Okay. How long after that 1090 call came in did it take you to arrive to the store?
Roughly like 30 to 45 seconds, I would guess. I was around Bay City, so yeah.
Did you see anyone else in the vicinity of the store?
No.
Can you explain what was around the defendant when you found him where he was laying?
So basically in the back side there is a safe that is secured with a silent alarm to our dispatch, and there's also like storage crates and like those beer boxes and all that stuff. And he was trying to lay down between the first back wall and those like beer boxes, trying to blend in. So we didn't see him when we breached the back of the store.
Have you encountered this defendant before?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, get ready to.
When was the last time you saw this defendant?
The day of the arrest, probably like 35 to 45 minutes beforehand.
So this defendant is definitely known to you.
I mean, I didn't know him personally, but yeah, I've heard his name.
Was it you that inspected the cash register?
No, I didn't.
Sorry, I'm just reviewing a couple more notes.
It was another officer who, well, inspected the store and checked the wires, so.
Okay. Then I will allow for the defense to take over. Cross.
Thank you.
Your Honor, permission to approach the witness.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you state your full name for me, sir?
Mike Goldberg.
Very nice to meet you, Officer Goldberg. Now, isn't it true you previously
It's
testified?
Goldberg, not Goat. Just saying.
Goldberg. Right?
Yeah.
Apologies. I apologize again in advance if I do mess it up.
Don't worry, you won't be the first and won't be the last.
Very sorry. All right, but previously you testified to searching the defendant, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, testified to finding. Sorry, you searched the defendant. At what point did you search him?
At what point?
Yes.
Yeah, well, we put him in cuffs and we searched him outside the store.
Can you walk me through step by step from when you got to the store until when you searched the defendant?
Asked and answered.
Is that
Your Honor, this
just hold on a minute. Is that your objection, ma'am?
Yes, because I asked exactly his step by step as my first question.
And rebuttal?
Certainly, Your Honor. This question hasn't been asked by us. Of course, questions being asked by opposing counsel on direct examination. We still have the opportunity to revisit those questions per Rule 611A of the Federal Rules of Evidence.
This is overruled at this time, ma'am. You may continue.
Wait, do I have to speak now?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, well, basically...
Do you need me to re-ask the question for you, or are you good to answer?
No, I'm good.
What?
So he was laying on the floor. We told him to get up. We put him in cuffs.
I'm sorry, could you, okay, again, if you could start from the very beginning, when you actually got to the store until the search.
You forgot when you tased me, Goldberg. You should.
Hey.
I will
Sorry,
say
man.
this now. If you will control your client, please, defense.
I'm sorry,
Doing
Miss
my
York.
best,
I'm
Your
sorry.
Honor.
Yes, you will be sorry. Please continue, Mr. Hall.
Okay, so you want me to start all over again?
Yeah, so start when you arrived at the store. What did you see?
Nothing. There was no car parked outside, and there was no visible hostage or suspect who is robbing the store.
Okay. Were there people outside of the store, just walking on the sidewalk?
Not that I recall.
Okay. Were there cars driving up and down the highway?
Yes, it's a highway.
Okay. So you get to the store. What happens? Do you try and make contact with people inside?
Yes.
All right, describe that.
I repeat the question, Mr. Hall. Your voice kind of cracked a little.
Oh, I apologize. So you got to the store. We're trying to find out who was inside the store. Describe from there.
Okay. Well, I approached the front door and I yelled that if anyone is inside the store, they should make themselves known. After the second unit showed up, we still haven't had any contact, so we decided to breach.
I'm going to stop you right there. Now, did you have the door open while you were yelling inside?
I mean, I don't recall.
Okay. Would you have been reasonably be able to hear what was going on inside?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, the store is not that big, so.
Okay. Yeah. So, did you at any point hear any noises that could be associated with a store robbery?
I mean, I was 10 feet, maybe not 10 feet, maybe like 50 feet away from a busy highway, so if there was anything inside, some quiet movement, I probably wouldn't be able to hear that.
Right. You yelled in the store multiple times asking if there was anyone in there, right?
I did.
No one answered. Is that right?
No.
What happened from there?
We breached the store, we cleared the front, and we kept saying, no, police, no. If you're inside, make yourself known. We cleared the shopping area, and behind the counter, there was no one.
Stop you right there. Actually, you testified that there was no one in the central shopping area?
No.
Okay. At that point, did you see any immediate signs of damage to any of the store or the products on the shelves or the cash register?
My job is not to inspect the cash registry at that point.
All right. At that point, is there anything that did catch your eye?
No, because I was focused on cleaning the store.
Okay. So nothing too obvious. You then, what happens after you clear the front area of the store?
Well, one officer stacked on the backside. He pushed in first. I was behind him. He cleared the whole backside, while I almost was running outside already. He said, I don't know exactly what he said, but something about like basically saying, "Hey, there's someone," and he spotted the suspect first, laying in the back of the store. I then ran back and helped him out.
Okay, so weren't actually one that originally went into the back here of the store, is that right?
I went with him into the store, into the back, but I didn't go all the way down there because it's really narrow, and if someone were to attack us, yeah, we can't really move.
Okay, but from the location that you're at, you had a pretty good view of the whole area that you were looking at, right? The back of the store?
Yeah, but I mean, not the back right
So-
side.
With that in mind, is there anything at that moment that you can recall caught your eye in terms of any damage to the store?
No.
Okay. So you go outside. What happens after that?
Like I said, an officer says something about, something like, "Hey, there's someone." I don't know exactly what he said, and I went back into the store in the back side.
Okay. Who did you find at that point? You identify?
Yeah, your suspect. I mean, sorry, your client.
Okay. Would you like to point him out for the clip?
Sure, the guy in the orange sweatshirt.
All right. You previously testified that you had a pretty close relationship with the defendant. Is that right?
No, I do not have a close relationship.
Okay. I can repeat your testimony verbatim if you'd like, but you stated specifically that you know the defendant personally.
No, I do not know him personally. I only know his name.
Okay. So at that point, you didn't know who you were dealing with. Is that right?
No, I didn't.
Okay. Now, what did you see the defendant at that point doing?
At what point?
Well, at the point that you were called back into the back room of the store.
We tried to get him in cuffs.
Before you got him in cuffs, what was he doing?
He was just laying there.
Okay. Was he making any sudden movements?
No,
Did he have anything in his hands?
no.
Okay. All right. So you tried to apprehend him.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Go from there.
Well, we tried to apprehend him and we placed him in cuffs, I believe.
Okay. At that point in the store, you place him in cuffs.
Yeah,
Okay. Do you take him out of the store at that point?
I didn't. Someone else took him out of the store.
Okay. What did you do from there then?
We had another incident 30 to 45 minutes earlier where a store got robbed in Grove Street. The suspect was dressed the same as your client, and black and colored buffalo was used as well. So I searched the area to see if I can find a black and colored buffalo, and I did 2 blocks down the store.
Okay. Is there anything specific that you did with that car?
No. I just found it, and then another officer took a picture of it.
Okay. Is that picture, was that submitted into evidence?
I don't know.
Why don't you take a look at the court document?
Mr. Hunt, I'm hungry.
Okay.
All right. You have the court docket up?
I'm going to say that this is
loading.
outside of the scope of my direct.
Do we have a rebuttal?
Your Honor, the witness opened the door to this line of questioning when he spoke about the vehicle specifically.
Also, this
which he
was
didn't
in the
mention
direct. This was specifically mentioned, the Black Buffalo.
This is the second time it's been mentioned. Ma'am, it was also mentioned when you were questioning him.
Or was he really
Just one moment. It says the officer took him out. I found a car, a black 4-door Buffalo. So therefore it was already mentioned in your line of questioning.
Okay, sounds good.
So overruled. Sir, when you have the document, you can answer Mr. Hall's question.
Yeah, I don't think there's any car evidence.
Okay. You previously testified that there was a photo of that car taken, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. At that point, did you run the plate of the vehicle?
I don't recall.
Don't recall. Okay. So, wouldn't you agree that there is a specific piece of evidence that's material to this case that has not been submitted into evidence?
No.
What's that?
Because the car wasn't used in this robbery. I only had a feeling that it might be the same suspect from Grove Street, but I don't have enough evidence to prove it, so that's why he wasn't charged for it.
Previously in your testimony, you asserted that it was the defendant that was robbing these other stores, and that was his getaway vehicle.
Yeah, but
Isn't
I
that
still
true?
can't. Just because I know that something is true doesn't mean that I can prove it in court, like your colleague said in an opening statement.
You collected it as evidence, isn't that right?
Relevance. We're not pressing GTA.
Your Honor, I believe it was asserted that this was the defendant's vehicle, actually.
Again,
Overall,
relevance to the claim of store robbery as well as contraband on the person has no relation to this vehicle.
Your Honor, it is relevant.
Give me 1 second here. So the Black Buffalo has been mentioned not only in your line of questioning, prosecution, but it's now been mentioned twice in the defendant's line of questioning. I understand that it's not part of the 2 charges. However, because it was initially mentioned, and quote unquote, he said he found it 2 blocks down. I don't believe, yeah, that's the word there. That it is, so it is part of the questioning. So I'm going to overrule you at this time.
That's fine. I didn't ask anything about the buffalo though, just to clarify.
I understand you didn't ask. He just provided it as his witness statement.
Okay.
All right, so would you like me to ask again, officer?
Sure.
All right, so finally, you would agree that there is a piece of evidence that was not submitted in this case. That's material to this case at hand. Is that right?
No, because the car has nothing to do with the robbery.
All right, I'm going to move on now. Now, earlier in your testimony, you also stated that you searched the defendant, correct?
I did.
All right. Was this after you found this vehicle?
I believe so.
Okay. And where did the search take place?
Outside the convenience store, like on the sidewalk.
Okay. At that point, do you know, or do you have any personal knowledge to believe that a search of the defendant had already taken place?
I do not.
Okay, so at that point, that was the first time that the defendant was being searched.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay. And what was the reason that you searched the defendant?
The reason? I mean, we had a silent alarm, we found a suspect inside. At that point, we had a PC to arrest him for the robbery of the store and search his person.
Okay, so that was going to be my next question. If you could list out and describe the probable cause that you had to place the defendant under arrest and to search him.
He was inside a store where we got a silent alarm for store robbery. He was the only one there, and no other person was in the vicinity or in the store itself.
So you're asserting that that gives you probable cause to then arrest and search the defendant?
Yeah.
Now, at that point, assuming there was no investigatory stop, all right?
I don't know, we asking.
Okay. So from the moment that the defendant was detained, he was placed under arrest, is that right?
Yeah.
There was no investigatory stop, it was a full arrest.
Yeah.
And that was at the point that he was found and placed in cuffs in the back of the store, is that right?
Yeah, the moment we put him in cuffs, he was under arrest, that's correct.
Okay. Now, did you ever contact the store owner?
No.
Did you ever ask them whether or not they allowed or disallowed the defendant on the property?
No. It's all
Outside
no.
of the scope of my questioning. and assumes facts not in evidence.
Rebuttal?
Well, Your Honor, just a couple of questions ago, the witness actually did answer. So I believe, overall, that would open up the scope of it.
Because
Should
you
have been
asked him.
objected to at that point.
Sorry,
Okay,
I'm
just-
objecting.
Yeah, just speak to me. We won't argue back and forth. Give me 1 second to read my notes. Actually, I'm sustaining this one at this time, Mr. Hall. I'm going to ask you to move on from that question, please.
Of course, Your Honor. All right, if I could have you look again at the docket for me, officer.
Uh-huh.
All right, now anywhere on there, do you see any evidence of a false alarm, not a false alarm, but a 1090, as you put it, or any sort of 901 call coming from the store that you entered?
No.
Okay, and you'd agree that that's a missing piece of evidence, right?
Is it? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, sir, unfortunately, I can't tell you. I can't testify for you. I can merely ask you a question. Now, if you could answer the question, that would be appreciated.
Okay. I mean, like I said, there was a 1090 we responded to, and we got a call from dispatch. But
Again,
I mean,
you would agree that wasn't submitted on the docket, right? And accepted in evidence?
right?
Okay, so you'd agree that that's a piece of evidence that exists that wasn't submitted into evidence?
I guess, yeah.
All right. Now, did you personally read the defendant his Miranda rights?
I did not.
Okay. Did any other officer do so?
I do not know.
Okay. At any point, did you ask the defendant any sort of questions material to the arrest?
I
What
did
happened?
not. I don't. Either I didn't, or honestly, I pretty much just ran around looking for the vehicle. I took his stuff, and then the recruit took over at that point, processing him. So, yeah.
Okay, and that would be Officer Bickford?
Yeah.
All right. Now, wouldn't you agree, or you previously testified to actually, that the defendant was in sort of a room beside, say, the safe room? Is that right?
No, there's a safe, and there's only one room in the back, and there's also the safe and the storage and the computer and everything.
Okay. All right. So you'd agree that the defendant, he wasn't directly on top of the safe, right?
Well, he was 2 or 3 feet away from it. Yeah.
He was laying on the ground away from the safe. Am I right?
Yeah.
Okay. I believe that's all the questions I have right now, Your Honor.
Thank you. Prosecution, is there anything you'd like to address to your witness?
Sure.
No. Oh, across. Sorry.
Is it standard to receive a 1090 call from dispatch?
Yes. We always get 1090 calls from dispatch because the stores and banks in the state are equipped with like silent alarm traps, so if something happens, they send us a call.
Okay, that's all.
All right, thank you, officer. You may be seated. We appreciate your time.
No way.
All right, ma'am, do you have another witness you'd like to call?
Yes, Officer Carmine Bickford, 920.
Thank you, Mr. Bickford. If you'd go over to Mr. McLean.
Hello, deputy. If you would, go ahead and make sure your voice is a little loud enough there for everyone to hear us. Raise both
Hello, sir.
hands. All right. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
I do.
All right. To the right of the big chair, please.
Should be a little microphone in front of you. All
Yep.
right, thank you, sir.
Okay. Can you state your full name for the record?
Carmine Bickford.
what is your position and which department?
I'm a probationary recruit in the LSSD.
Can you inform me of the incidents that happened that brought us here today?
Yes, I was riding alongside my undersheriff at the time, Hugo Stiglitz, as being FTO'd by him. We got a call for 1090 off of Great Ocean, and specifically in Centennial Road. We made our way over, and upon arriving on the scene, there were already a few officers on scene working through breaching the building. We went to back them up. As I breached the building, I noticed that cash register had been tampered with. I continued through the back of the store as the front had seemed to be cleared. Upon reaching the back, I encountered two officers seemingly detaining Mr. Phillip Walker.
So you were third into the back room.
Correct.
Can you continue with what happened from there?
After being detained, he was brought outside and put under arrest for the robbery in question. Mr. Goderberg, I believe, hopefully I'm saying that right, ran off to try to identify if this was a string of robberies, since he had mentioned that this may be the same person he encountered earlier that day. At that time, we were discussing with one of the other officers on scene about some other matters unrelated to the crime at hand, and then once the chain of custody was determined that we were going to be taking him to our custody and processing, he was Mirandized, or put in the car, Mirandized, and then we headed off to Chumash Station.
At which point, what occurred at the station?
At the station, he was fingerprinted, searched again. Well, not searched again. I mean, he was searched. I wasn't aware if he was searched previously. I guess I was assuming. But he was searched. We had his possessions, and he was basically was going to be booked, but then was let out on bail or bail bonds.
Were you the one that processed the fingerprinting?
Sorry, can you say that one more time? Your voice cut out.
Were you the one that processed the fingerprinting?
Yes, ma'am.
What was the identity of the person that came back from the fingerprinting?
Phillip Walker.
And that is the defendant standing before you here?
Correct. He's wearing a orange sweatshirt and gray sweatpants with a white cap.
Now, you stated that you noticed that the cash register had been tampered. Did you inspect it after that?
Correct. After he was in custody, I went to review the cash register to confirm my suspicions, and one of the cash registers had been tampered with.
There are two cash registers then?
Correct.
And one of them had been tampered with?
Correct.
Okay. What do you look for in a tampered cash register?
The drawer jar messed with, unlocked, that sort of thing. Additionally, we also look for whether or not, if there's multiple cash registers, we look to see if one's been tampered with too, because a common MO or process that criminals use to rob these convenience stores is to trigger the silent alarm and hide or run until the police investigate and leave. So,
that's all my questions then. Thank you.
Defense.
Defense asleep or something. What's going on?
Can I ask him some questions? I want to ask him questions. Why not?
All right, Officer Bickford, right?
Deputy.
Deputy. Apologies. Distinction there. So, let's see here. You testified that you saw that the registers were tampered with, correct?
That one register was tampered with.
Okay, one register. Now, where in the store would that be?
In this particular store, when you walked in, it was to the left.
So it was to the left of the store, and where was the defendant found?
In the rear, back room.
Okay. Now, in your experience, you said you're probationary, right?
Correct.
Typically, I'd imagine you have limited experience when it comes to situations like this, right?
Correct.
Now, within your experience, have you encountered a store robbery in which there's clear evidence that the safe had been tampered with?
No.
No. Okay. Now, the defendant, he was positioned in the back of the store, right?
Correct.
All right. And where did you find the defendant when you went in the back room?
I found him. He was already cuffed, and 2 officers were in the middle of taking care of him, essentially, and getting him out of the back room.
Gotcha. And this register there is tampered with. It was in the front of the store, right?
Correct.
There's a pretty considerable distance between the defendant and this register, isn't it?
Yes, but people do have legs and they can walk.
Okay. Now, previously you testified to having specific experience with a store robbery in which a defendant had hidden the back room or in the store until the police left. Is that right?
No, I testified that that's the kind of MO or standard, some of the practice that can happen or does happen in the city. This is information that I've received secondhand from my many FTOs.
Oh, okay. So this is nothing that you've experienced personally.
I've encountered one store, second store where alarm was triggered, no one was found, and we cased the situation in order to determine if someone was going to be coming back based off of that MO or, line of theory.
So you would agree that you don't have any personal knowledge to believe that this alleged robbery on the 2nd of October was in fact within this MMO that you described. You don't have any evidence to suggest that.
I'm not sure what your question is. If you could reread it or re-say it.
Now, you testified to not having any experience responding to a store robbery that was similar to that MMO, or was that MMO necessarily. So isn't it true that you don't have personal knowledge to believe that this robbery, alleged robbery that took place on the 2nd, was in fact with that MMO? Why?
At the time, I did not was aware that this could have been a possible repeat pattern that the criminals have. That being said, the cash register was still tampered with.
That's enough there. Now, let's see here. Now, what evidence do you have to believe that the defendant robbed this store?
The cash register was tampered with, and he had a lockpick and hacking tool on his person, and about $200 worth of cash. I did. Okay.
And what did you find on him?
Hacking tool, lockpick, about $200 worth of cash.
Okay. Now, say it again, if you could. Let me put it this way. Prior to searching the defendant, prior to the detainment, what evidence did you have to believe that the defendant robbed the store?
The tampered cash register and the fact that he was hiding in the back room.
Do you believe that that is probable cause to believe that the defendant robbed the store?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, you guess?
Well, I'm a recruit, sir. I'm still in the process of getting firm confidence with my procedures.
Right. Okay. As an officer, you have the authority to arrest someone, isn't that right?
As a deputy, yes.
So you need to know the difference between what is and what is not probable cause, isn't that right?
Yes, but that's also why I have FTOs with me.
Can you give me a firm answer on this? Is a broken cash register and a defendant in a store, is that probable cause for an arrest?
For an arrest, no.
But that's what happened in this case, right? The defendant was arrested.
He was arrested after being detained and searched, I believe.
So, wouldn't you agree? You're stating that after the defendant was detained, he was arrested. You would disagree with the testimony of Officer Goldberg, who stated that the defendant, once he was placed in cuffs, he was placed under arrest. You disagree?
I'm not aware of what process he took place, being as we were still figuring out the chain of custody, so I would not disagree. I would just say he was, in my eyes, when he was put in my custody, I said he was under arrest, and then I searched him.
So the defendant was searched prior to you determining his arrest. Is that right?
I am not aware.
You were in this courtroom, right?
He was not searched by me.
Okay, so at that time, were you told, prior to you searching the defendant, did you know that the defendant had been searched?
I am not aware. I was not told on the scene. I do not recall. If it had been, then it is something that slipped my mind.
Okay, so you're basing the probable cause for the arrest of the defendant based on his location in a store, as well as a tampered, or destroyed, or whatever was cash register. Now, I'd like to give you a hypothetical, if I could.
I'm gonna already say that is outside. It's asking for an opinion, a speculation with a hypothetical.
Can I hear the hypothetical question to see if the objection is correct?
Of course, I would like to draw a pretty simple hypothetical. Now, the basis for the arrest was those two pieces of evidence: the location of the defendant and something that was broken in the store. And now, my hypothetical is, would it be probable cause to arrest someone in this courthouse just because, say, this table was broken?
Okay, so I'm going to sustain that, and we're not going to have the hypothetical question.
Of course, Your Honor.
Thank you.
I believe Mr. Hunt does have some questions.
Just briefly, sorry, is it deputy or recruit at this point?
It's deputy.
And at the time you were a recruit, right?
You're called a deputy regardless of whether or not you're a recruit or not.
Okay, and at that time you had been employed with the sheriff's department for 10 days?
I can't recall the number of days, but I'm not sure.
Sure. Would you dispute me if I told you your hire date was the 12th of...
I do not remember the day I was hired.
Sure, that's all right.
I'm gonna go with outside of the scope of my direct.
Yes, actually sustained, Mr. Hunt, if you'd move on, please.
Sure. And just briefly, do you recall what day you were trained on?
Again, scope.
Your Honor, the
Yes.
prosecutor had asked the deputy about his experience and how long he's been with the department. I would say that his training is extremely relevant. It's still within
I
the
never
scope.
asked how long he was with the department.
It's his rank, if I recall correctly, his experience as well.
Give me one moment to look over my notes. Ms. Cartwright asked for Mr. Bickford's department and his rank at the time, which was probationary recruit.
And I'm using this to establish how long he's actually, or when he was trained from that date, because now he's no longer that rank. And at the time of the incident,
I still am a
hold on,
recruit.
sir. No one's asking a question. At the time of the incident, how long he's been trained for?
I understand where you're going with this questioning. To my knowledge, I do believe they're called deputies in the LSSD. For this particular question, which was roughly how many days have you been employed, I'm going to overrule it and we will continue with that question.
So do you recall the time of the incident, which I believe was the second, how many days you've been employed?
I do not.
Okay, and during your training, have you been trained on documenting evidence?
Outside of scope again.
I believe that we have established that he previously stated that he is being trained by an FTO. It was already established earlier in his witness testimony while being questioned by the defendant that the FTO had explained to him that people wait outside for the cops to leave and then they run back and take the cash. So since we already know that he is in training, I will overrule your question and we'll continue.
Sorry, overrule the objection, or?
Sorry, overrule the objection. Apologies.
So my question, was going to repeat it again for you. Have you been trained on documenting evidence?
Do you mean a particular training or just overall?
Overall.
I was in the process of being trained at the time.
So you're not fully trained on how to document evidence as of that time?
As of that time, correct.
Okay. And you'd agree that there was no pictures taken of the scene, right?
I did not take any pictures of the scene.
Sure.
Yeah.
And you're, of course, testifying to the fact that this register was tampered with, right?
Correct.
Did you take any evidence photos of that?
I did not take any pictures of the cash register.
I have no further questions. Thank you, Your Honor.
Ms. Cartwright, do you have any questions you'd like to give? Okay.
Now, you are certain of the items that you witnessed within the defendant's pockets.
Correct.
There was no question as to what these items were.
Correct.
Your Honor, I'm going to object to that question. I mean, overall, this witness has already stated that he doesn't quite have all that much training in terms of evidence. I think it would be a far stretch to understand if he could discern what specific evidence was with that training either not happening or still ongoing.
My rebuttal would be you can visibly see items and identify items with or without training.
I'm going to overrule the objection only because previously he did say in his testimony, lockpick, hacking tool, and $200. So you may continue.
That will be the end of my questioning.
Okay. All right, Deputy, thank you so much for your time. You may be seated.
Thank you.
Prosecution, any other witnesses?
Yes, Officer Hugo Stiglitz, if he is still present.
Yes, he is. Mr. Stiglitz, if you'd come up to your left and see Mr. McLean.
It's got that fucking car walk.
Okay, Stiglitz, is it Lieutenant now?
Can't go. Yes.
All right, LT, if you will, go ahead and raise both hands for me.
Where's Carl?
Do you solemnly swear the testimony that you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
All right, to the right of the big chair for me.
Should be a microphone in front of you. Fantastic.
Okay, can you state your full name?
Hugo Stiglitz,
And what department are you with?
Blaine County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your title?
Lieutenant.
Were you training the Carmine Bickford at the time of this incident?
Objection,
Yes.
leading.
Sustained. I do believe this will be fun. Could you reformat your question, ma'am?
Oh, I'll get through it. Can you explain to me the incident at hand from start to finish, sir?
Objection, calls
Objection
for
made.
narrative.
Your rebuttal,
asked-
ma'am?
Asking the incident at hand is exactly why we are here.
Object as well, Your Honor, for foundation. Where there are no foundational questions to establish what incident we're talking about.
Then I can rephrase. The October 2nd incident in which it was called into a 1090, can you explain that entire situation to me?
Thank you, ma'am.
We received a call from a 90 at the Chumash gas station or corner store.
Good crosses.
I was training Carmine Bickford, so we went to that call. Upon arrival, we already noticed that 2 units were already there, so we went in with guns drawn. and I went to the back and I noticed that there was one officer already
Can
dealing
we
with.
pause really quick while we get the defendant back to his podium?
I do believe he's trying to get the attention so he can eat and drink.
Okay.
Not quite.
No. I have to take
Counselors,
a
do you want to make a quick motion for your client?
Sorry?
Yeah, can we ask for a couple-minute recess? The defendant has to do something quickly. Put it that way.
He needs a
2
nap,
minutes.
Judge.
2 minutes.
All right.
Thank you.
This way, Mr. Walker.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. 2 minutes.
I want to say overall in my closing.
Hey, I appreciate you holding my nuts,
Overall.
McLean.
Yeah, you did.
I don't repeat words like you do, though. It's just
Your Honor, I'm ready, Your Honor.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mr. Stiglitz. All right, court is back. Mr. Stiglitz, thank you so much. Prosecution, go ahead.
Okay. Can we proceed with the line of questioning that you were in the middle of answering when we were interrupted?
Yes,
Was
can
your
you repeat the
arrival to
question?
Yeah,
Okay.
Can you, was the arrival to the scene, I believe you stopped.
Let me read what you said so far. You said you had a 1090 call to Chumash Corner Store. You were training Mr. Bickford. When you arrived, there were already 2 units. You both went in with guns drawn. That's where we got to.
All right, and I saw one of the officers. I don't remember which officer it was. They're both wearing black uniforms. Had his gun drawn, and they were pulling the suspect from the boxes, or he was getting up from behind some boxes. They then put him in handcuffs. We took him outside where they searched him, if I can remember correctly. And then, since I was training, I needed to train my deputy on his MBT reports. So LSPD kindly gave us the suspect. We then searched him and put him in our car and drove to Chumash. When we got to Chumash, we talked to the suspect, and of course, all he was saying was, "I'm going to plead not guilty. I could beat this because the DOJ is crap." And we argued a little more. I then had a headache, but by that time, the DA or a judge was already there and bail bond. So.
Understood. So, was there anybody else in the vicinity of the store when you arrived?
No, that area is usually dead.
Was there anybody else within the store?
No.
Just the defendant. So then you entered the back first, second, third?
I was probably 4th in.
Understood. Now, you said that you received a 1090 call. Can you explain what a 1090 call is?
It's a robbery.
What causes the
A
call?
gas station robbery or a bank robbery. A silent alarm, usually tripped by either the cash register or the safe in the back.
How long was it until you arrived on scene?
Less than 60 seconds.
What was found on the defendant?
Objection, foundation. I don't know that this officer, this witness, searched the defendant.
I didn't search him, but as soon
There's no
as
question, sir. There's no
So,
question.
Just, sorry, 1 moment, please.
My rebuttal would be that he was assisting an FTO or he was training, so he would be aware of what was on the defendant.
Objection is going to be for foundation and speculation. Now, Your Honor.
Yeah, just 1 moment. I'm reading it back. Mr. Stiglitz said that he saw an officer in a black uniform pulling the defendant from the boxes. He was cuffed, taken outside, and searched. It does not say who searched him. So your question is sustained at this time. So I'm sustaining that question, ma'am.
Mhm. Did you clear the store at all after he was pulled out?
Me personally, no, I did not clear the store.
That'll be my end of my questions. Thank you.
Defense?
We have no questions for this witness, Your Honor.
Okay, at this time, sir, you are free to sit down. Thank you for your time. Prosecution, any other witnesses at this time?
There are none.
Okay, defense.
No witnesses from the defense, Your Honor.
No witnesses at this time?
Nope.
All right. Since both prosecution and defense rest, we will move forward to closing statements. Ms. Cartwright, the floor is yours.
Could I have 2 minutes to just formulate thoughts?
Yes. Actually, everyone make sure that you have something to eat and something to drink. Feel free to stretch your legs. We'll take 2 minutes from here.
Yeah, they just fed me in the back. Had him grab my nuts so I can pee, and then after he fed me, of course.
What the fuck? Sorry, are you trying to talk?
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure you guys understand everything that happened in there.
Please don't pee your pants, Mr.
Might press charges later on. No, I'm kidding. I don't know, man. It seems down bad for this DA. First case down the drain like this. Unfortunately. Oh, sorry.
No.
Sorry. Talking too low.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, there's not really any evidence to show that he actually did it. Along with the search was unlawful too. There wasn't PC for them to arrest him. At least what in the fuck? Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, my question what the fuck?
Hey, madam, I don't get it. Sorry, I'm done.
Oh, smack! Don't Google it. Whatever you do, do not Google that.
Okay. Good. I have to Google it now. Fuck.
Oh, you're gonna regret that.
Okay, never mind. I don't. Okay, alright, I won't.
Yeah, do you like
cheese spread, Michael?
landmark. Fuck. Landmark.
Oh my god.
Voices, please.
I have everything I think, but if there's something while I'm talking that you want me to, I'll
Just ate it. I'm about to throw up, bro. Fuck this dude.
Okay, I think I know what this name what come up if I Google it. Okay. Yeah.
You should also check that I'm feeling lucky box. How about them Packers, huh? Shit team.
Wait, is the CJ loaded or what?
Someone trying to break me out for 100K after this? I'm not trying to go back to jail.
Too bad there's only cops in these rooms.
Yeah, but LSPD is corrupt. You know this.
That's crazy. It's crazy story.
No, that was suppressed. So it's only the officer testimony. That was suppressed. The only thing that they have is literally.
All right, are we ready to continue, everyone? Let's call this court back in. All right, let's proceed with closing statements. Prosecution.
Your Honor, Through the witness testimony shown today, there is no doubt that this defendant is guilty of a store robbery. A 1090 triggered by the silent alarm within the store was set off. Officers arrived within 30 to 45 seconds of the alarm being set off. There were no other witnesses or suspects in the area. There was no one seen fleeing the area or within the store other than the defendant. There was no one other than the defendant that could have set off this alarm within a 30 to 45 second period from the arrival of officers. The officers, pursuant to a 1090 call, witnessing a tampering register, and the defendant within the store had probable cause to arrest and search the defendant. They found items used in the commission of a robbery within the defendant's possession, a lockpick, a hacking device, and cash. It is clear that there is no other reasonable response other than finding that this defendant was the one that set off the 1090 alarm, was the one that tampered with the register, and was the one that robbed the store. Furthermore, he had possession of the contraband items on his person to find him guilty of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. And defense.
May it please the court, counsel, Mr. Walker. If I can squeeze through here. We spent a little bit of time during our opening statement talking about what is needed to prove a crime, what's beyond a reasonable doubt, and the standard that is beyond a reasonable doubt. So let's talk about a little bit what the prosecutor or the state said in their closing statement. Firstly, the prosecutor stated in her closing that they saw no one was seen fleeing the area. So let's talk about what the officers actually did testify to. The first officer to testify, testified to the fact that there was cars driving up and down the highway. Whether those cars were involved wasn't touched upon, but it doesn't just mean that they weren't involved. And the officer himself, if we all remember the testimony, said specifically, yeah, they were driving down the highway. The prosecutor also stated that there was no probable cause to search the defendant. So again, let's talk about what we heard during the trial. You heard during the trial that the probable cause was that he was inside the store. But there's a caveat to that, because he was searched before they actually determined whether or not the cash register was quote-unquote tampered with. The defendant was already searched far before that had already been established. The officers took him out of the store while he was in custody, searched him. Later, the probationary deputy checked to see if the register was tampered with. Furthermore, let's talk about what was actually proven during this case. Of course, to prove a crime beyond a reasonable doubt, the prosecutors have to prove each element beyond a reasonable doubt. It can't just be, as I said before, some global proposition that this crime occurred. So let's talk about that. The defendant was searched by one of the deputies. Whether or not there was probable cause for the search, the court's going to determine that. But let's talk about what was found. They found specifically a hacking tool, which is what the prosecutors are alleging, and that's why he's being charged with a possession charge. What evidence have you heard today that goes to say that a hacking tool is illegal to have? You've heard no testimony from any of the officers who stated, yeah, that's illegal under this code or under this statute, or it's illegal because. No officers testified to that during the course of the trial. So I'd submit that it's just a global proposition that a crime occurred. They didn't actually prove that this happened and that that item was illegal. Let's also talk about the police work that was done for this case. Now, I don't want to be insulting, but I think a word that I can use is sloppy. The police work that was done in this case was sloppy. There was no photos taken at the scene of the crime showing that what they're saying actually happened. There's no photos of a cash register being tampered with. There's no photos of inside of the store. There's no photos of damage to the store. Evidence is lacking in this case. It's lacking pretty severely. You haven't seen a 911 call that actually shows that a robbery was taking place at this scene. I mean, you have barely seen any evidence that can actually prove what the prosecutors are alleging beyond a reasonable doubt. They're just stating, okay, well, this happened here, so that means that this must happen, and that means the rest of the things must occur. But in a criminal trial, the prosecutors have to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt, and they also have to prove each and every element of every single charge that they are filing beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard in the United States, in this country. So let's talk about a little bit about what the probationary officer did. You heard testimony today that the probationary officer determined whether or not the cash register was tampered with. You also heard testimony that he was still being trained on how to collect evidence. It was his first time, and with regard to the actual cash register, you heard that he's only relying on other officers' statements. So again, the only officer who looked wasn't trained, and the only officer who could actually provide assistance from the testimony that we heard today did not actually show that he explained anything, that he showed that what he was doing was right, or that he was actually trained on how to conduct what he was doing. So the court's going to have to decide a couple things. First, whether or not there was probable cause to search the defendant. And of course, we'd submit that there wasn't. Second, the court has to determine whether or not the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt that a hacking tool is illegal, which it hasn't. It hasn't even been testified to. Thirdly, the court is going to decide whether or not the evidence that was provided proves the defendant's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. When you look at the evidence, logically, when you look at it on its face value, and when you go over what we've heard from the testimony today, the only verdict that you will be able to find is not guilty. Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, everyone, for attending.
Thank you, prosecution. Thank you, defense. I'll be taking a 3-minute recess. I'll be right back. Oh, wants to dance over the chair.
So we have a ton to talk about after this.
Run. She's pissed. She's working with idiots. Run. Good man, I needed something to stroke my ego.
I didn't take no photos.
Me and Landmark and Clark kind of sort of, we're not afraid.
Yeah, but I didn't submit the photo.
You want me to go see if the cards are still here?
Oh, yeah. I got you now. How you doing, man?
Man, good. This has been a long
Yeah,
one.
but I
Yeah, it has.
didn't process him. What?
So regardless of the trial, he goes back to the
Yes.
right? All right.
They did good.
Do we have a transport vehicle? I brought my DOC car.
Well, he's still guilty of robbing it. I mean, who cares about?
Well, that's what he's going to check. Make sure our vehicles are there.
Okay. 10-4.
Also,
Chill
not
up.
court courtesy. Well, for the fact she doesn't call it objection.
She just says what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, notice that.
It's a little rude.
And it's unfortunate a cop doesn't know the difference between the two, but still makes an arrest. Interesting. Take his badge, by the way. Not even the deputy's fault, it's the officer's fault. LSPD.
How do legs good? Legs no do good.
I like doing that though. I like putting charcoal on the fire. It's fun. What's up? You ready to lose your first case as a prosecutor here in the state?
Listen, I'll handle it, alright?
God
Just put
bless.
solitary and feeding just bread or
So,
something.
I mean,
Whoa,
you act like I'd
what are
have
you saying over
emotions
there, bud?
regarding you. So, no, I actually really don't care one way or the other. You actually don't matter to me.
Unfortunate. 0 to 1. Unfortunate.
All rise. The District
Actually,
Court of San
I wouldn't
Andreas is
claim
back
that,
in
but
session.
that's
The
cool.
Honorable Judge York
Pretty
still
sure you lost
presiding.
earlier and the day before.
God bless. Easy wins.
All righty. Thank you all. You may be seated. This has been an interesting trial over robbery and possession of illegal contraband, and I'm just going to talk a little bit first. So number one, we have a silent alarm that is triggered to the dispatch of the police department. So anyone in the location or inside the building, quote unquote, cannot hear it because it is silent. Number two, we have a person who is, as said in the incident report, sleeping in the back room. And yet we have witness testimony that says that he was laying down or cowered or crouching in the back room of the convenience store. Number three, I do believe that we are lacking a witness of some kind. We have heard from many people that we even heard from Mr. Stiglitz that when he pulled up, there were already 2 units at the place. However, we only heard from one officer. We don't know who put Mr. Walker in cuffs initially. That is not on the incident report. We have reasonable suspicion, or do we have probable cause? I firstly would like to say that by transferring the chain of custody, which is Mr. Walker, over to the deputy and to the FTO, it has been established in regard to the report that I believe the deputy was just doing his job. And I believe that he was doing it correctly. However, because the chain of custody was handed over, there was a lack of information that went from one party to another. So the backbone of this case lines on the fact of, is this reasonable suspicion? Should Mr. Walker have just been detained, frisked, possibly questioned? Who knows? Or is it based on probable cause? So, Mr. Walker, in regards to PC 2228 robbery, based on the evidence today and the witness testimony today, you are found not guilty.
Bless.
Quiet, please. In regard to PC 3207, possession of illegal contraband, I believe that this case is based on reasonable suspicion and not probable cause. Therefore, you are found not guilty of that charge as well. Along with that, State Prosecutor, there is no mention of a judge visiting the cells. There is no mention of Mr. Walker being released on bail. On the on the case submitted to the court, it says no, he was not released on bail. So I would like some information so that I can see whether he was on bail or not. So, ladies and gentlemen, at this time, court is adjourned. Thank you.
God bless.
All right, go ahead and get your car.
Ain't gonna last as a prosecutor in this state with that performance, Miss Cartwright. That's for damn sure.
I'm pretty sure there was nothing wrong with my performance, but still, Sir, keep
Unfortunate.
talking. No, I gotta talk to her really quick.
Unfortunate.
I was not the one that submitted, so I don't have answers.
All right,
to
let's
your
rock and
questions.
roll, boys. I got a
Hold up.
fat smile on my face.
Hold up.
Oh yeah, I mean the.
All right,
Show
we're
you a
getting
big-
ready to
You like
bring it out
that?
now.
That
We're
was
Phillip,
good.
you're going right back to prison.
Hey, nice shit policing, Goatbird. Keep it up.
Thank you, boss.
So he's going back to prison. We gotta figure out
Yeah,
your bail
go back.
situation
Oh
for the
yeah,
other
do my
case.
bail hearing. Yeah. Please.
Let me see if we can.
Bail was already denied.
Oh, was it? Okay, never mind then.
Yeah, he had a.
I denied bail myself, but I want bail hearing. There was no judge.
Like, he pled guilty.
Yeah, I still want bail. I want to change. Not guilty. I was coerced by you at gunpoint.
Well, body cam will say otherwise. It's fine.
Yeah, we'll see,
Oh,
buddy.
we can get you going then. But
God bless.
You didn't have an attorney at that time, right?
Nope, they didn't offer me an attorney at all. Actually,
He wasn't questioned.
yeah, these are my favorite attorneys right here.
Transport ready. All right, let's go.
Sorry, who was?
I gotta wait for my bail hearing, man.
You can file for one. He's going back to prison. Let's go.
mind if we ask the judge if we can have a bail hearing?
Nope.
He's
Transport
stingy.
vehicle ready?
Oh.
He's a stingy.
All right, let's go.
He's a stingy bastard.